And also, by having that kind of split and that kind of division, those ego defenses that all psychologists know about, what does that do to thought? What does that do? If we are divided within, right, where you actually now are feeling that one part of you, you're disassociated from it, it's not part of you, it's not integrated into consciousness, then we have to find the internal adversary. And we know that it is. And it doesn't matter whether you buy into Freud's 3-part schemata, or Jung's 4-part schemata. It's simple. We know that there's a conscious and unconscious self. Many divisions. We have the persona. We even call people persons. Right? Here's a person. The word just means a facade. Even the very word refers to just a facade. And as I said, if you have disharmony within these modes of being, right, within the anatomy of your own psyche, some people have more, some people have less. If you have these kinds of divisions and this kind of disharmony, you're not only a weaker individual, you are now dependent on all the gimmickry that's going to come in and tell you how to gain it. So instantly you've lost your center. And then one thing leads to yet another and another and another, as you try to get out of the mix, out of the problem. As we said, the door to truth is narrower than you think. We are entrapped in a maze, in a web. And the strange thing about that web is that the more that you try to escape from it, the tighter it becomes. We're strangling ourselves often by our very attempts to be free. Who do you think loves that? Who do you think earns dividends because of our efforts, even spiritually, to liberate ourselves? Who earns points from that? Who is established from that? Do you see what I'm trying to say? That the bottom of the pyramid supports the top. In the internal conflicts and the inability to resolve it in true ways, holistic ways, and by all the fakery and the gimmickry and the running into all the false things, the most evil psychopaths sunning themselves because of it. It's reciprocal. Never forget that. Then the psychologists who say, well, okay, then we'll just deal with opening those inner reservoirs for you. We'll show you the right way. What happens? The inner adversary thinks differently. Freud found that if the analyst touched upon repressed material, the patient would resist his therapeutic approach. This is not a matter of conscious unwillingness on the part of the patient, or of dishonesty, or of secretiveness. He is defending himself against the discovery of the unconscious material without being aware either of the material or of his resistance. The patient can turn away from the sensitive topic and talk about something else. It's like Heidegger's chit-chat. He can feel sleepy and tired. He can find a reason not to come to the interview, or he can become very angry against the analyst and find some reason to quit the analysis. Ever tried playing shadow to people? It's the resistance, if you take what I said last time. By resisting going into the unconscious, remember Jung's quote about the shadow? And I said that another translation was that by not doing the shadow work, it's really basically that you're, like he said, doing anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid dealing with your soul. That's what this is all about. That resistance is not just a reflex to stop you going into the unconscious. It's the reflex that prevents you from growing and making your own soul, if you take my theory that that's what we're here to do. It's so important that this resistance and what it's about. Because if you're thinking you came in with the soul and the soul is there, then of course this is meaningless. This is absolutely meaningless. But the moment that you realize that your life and your experience is here to develop the thing called your soul that you don't have when you come in. You have nature's spark of life, that's animate, that's different. But the soul, your individual purpose, your dharma, you don't have, and you're meant to build that here. And that's what this is really talking about. That we resist doing that. Then we have to look into that, why that would be. Now, the present era, the age of revealing, the age of awakening. Well, the trauma, I say, occurred in relatively recent times. The plagues we experience are relatively new. We are in the beginning stages of understanding and recovery. This healing has negative consequences for the architects of control and for all forms of totalitarianism, as we've already stated. We are young. This trauma happened recently, so we're still in the early stages. We have to be very forgiving and very compassionate with ourselves and realize that we're making great progress, and greater progress will be done. And as this healing and recovery takes place, that is the main death knell for the Black Lodge, for the sorcerers. Nothing else. You can run around with your political placards as much as you like. They're not even worried about that. In their own symbolism, we looked at some of it. The very fact that they use the checkered floor, the black and white squares of the checkerboard, the chessboard, is emphasizing the conflict between ignorance and knowledge. That's what the war is all about. Their own symbolism tells you that. The Bible tells you that. The sacred Gospels tell you that. The Gospel of Philip, it says, ignorance is the mother of all evil. In Proverbs, the wise will inherit honor, but the fools get disgrace. Didn't Socrates say that the greatest good is knowledge, the greatest evil ignorance? The Indian words for it are dharma and karma. Dharma meaning the reason you're here. Not the reason your mother wanted you to be born and daddy thinks you're going to carry on his name and the uncle wants you to follow in his business and everything and all this nonsense. Or they're going to hand you over to the monks and the priests to do as they say. Dharma is your reason for being here. Karma is ignorance. That's all the word means. And you're not in Dharma when you're in karma. When you are not plugged into your selfhood, then you have the karma. When you have your selfhood, karma stops. It's not sins accumulating through time like the priests have lied to you about. That doesn't make any sense if you logically think it over. It makes a lot of sense to them because they can control your ass. But the point is that karma is your ignorance, your unawareness of the true meaning of life. The moment that you are aware of the purpose that you're here, there is no karma. You step out of karma. That's the way out. In modern parlance, in philosophical parlance, is simply authentic and inauthentic existence. Now, in many interviews and other works we talked about this, the guilt complex, and how this plugs into all of this. Each one of us has a primal guilt, an unconscious guilt. Not the guilt of doing misdemeanors, and faux pas in this life. That's different. We have a subconscious guilt. Where does it come from? It comes from the commitment to the inauthentic life. It's tied in with karma, but the idea is that the guilt, you have a primal guilt. Psychologists know all about it. But it comes, how do you get it? It comes because you make an unconscious decision to live inauthentically. With that comes a certain guilt. And that guilt then, it's almost like, say, the inauthentic life is the soil. From that grows the tree, the hideous inverted tree of the guilt complex, and from that come all the other negative branches, all the filthy offspring of this one demon. Because now that you're committed to the inauthentic life, now you're going to deny it. Now you're going to justify it, right? Now you're going to decorate it. Now you're going to be in denial and denial of the denial. Now you're going to want this inauthentic existence to be better, brighter, safer, and more secure. Now you're going to say, I want to cluster with other inauthentic souls to make me feel that I've done the right thing. Hence the collectivism that comes about. You see, and there's many more we could mention. Then you have the ubiquitous extroversion, just running around infatuated with all of the domestic and social minutiae. The infatuation with nonsense in the world, and the chronic dependency on others, and then the fact that you don't get the cues and affectations back, which makes you a neurotic individual. Now that you're dependent, then you don't get what you want, you become now completely neurotic. One level of derangement, you see, leading to another. One hideous inverted tree of life, as I've described it. The way out of it, of course, is to return to the dharmic life. And that's what we're going to examine, how to do that. Or I said one of the other negative aspects that comes of this, one of the offspring, is just the ubiquitous competitiveness. Now you have to be better than the other inauthentic soul, where you don't have true stance, you don't have true status, you don't have true sovereignty. So now you run around performing, using your body like some sort of crazy thing to outperform others. It's nothing more than hierarchy. You're building your own hierarchies. And from the top of your pyramid, you're shouting the other pyramid down. Down with the Illuminati while you stand on the top of your own pyramid. Wonderful. They're doing that, aren't they? They can't rise of their own nature. They're the lowest psychopathic people. But you can rise in another way. Suppress everybody else. Artificially suppress everyone else, and that's how you get a feeling of the high. The spiritual man, the true magus, he rises of his own accord. It's not relevant to what anybody else does. The collectivism, right across the street. Posters saying, we are you. Right? I am who I am because of everyone. And people think nothing of this. This makes them fuzzy and warm all over. Because the identity is being sold in the marketplace. Talking again about the unconscious mind and its nature. Freud said nothing can be brought to an end in the unconscious. Nothing is past or forgotten. Right? The sorcerers know this, which is why they use symbolism. Like the Scots historian Carlyle was talking about. They're using that as a weapon against you because they know in here there is no time. In the unconscious, wow, it's a quantum universe in which all reality is there in an implicate way.